Today on Off the Record, this is part 3 of our discussion about Amy Mihaljevic. That is episode number 22 on True Crime Garage. If you haven't checked that out, do so. Today we're talking about how one of the suspects possibly committed suicide. Let's pick it up there. Thanks for joining us. Cheers, mates.
The other strange thing regarding this Billy Strunak is there's not 100% conclusive evidence that this was a suicide. I believe on his death certificate, it does state that his death was caused by suicide. However, when he was receiving medical attention for poisoning himself, let's say, right. He denied poisoning himself. He also did not tell the medical professionals what he had ingested. So there's some thought out there that this wasn't technically a suicide, that it might be a poisoning.
Okay, let's rewind for a second, though, because you said he takes this poison and then he was in a coma, but at some point it's implying that he was talking to medical staff.
He was talking to them before the coma. He didn't ingest this stuff and then he's found like blacked out somewhere.
I'm following you now.
He ingested this stuff and then he went about his day. Like he left his apartment and went about his day. And so a lot of people have called into question if in fact this is a suicide, because I got to believe that most of the time if somebody poisons themselves, they don't just go about their day. They stay and wait for the poison to take effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And he's saying that he wasn't poisoned. He's saying he didn't poison himself.
I don't know that he directly said those words because I don't have anything other than third-hand knowledge of the conversation. But I would imagine, if you show up in there and your insides are burning and you describe it like that, I'm sure one of the first thing the medical professionals are going to ask you is, well, what have you eaten today? What have you drank today? Did you ingest something that you shouldn't have? Or
30 packages of ketchup.
But you know what I mean? And so in a way you can say that's a denial. If he did take that knowingly and then said, no, I just, I had a Coca-Cola or something.
And so he went about his day.
Mm-hmm. He went about his day, and I think he was at work, and he was complaining about not feeling well, and he was taken to the hospital, and it was there that he fell into this coma, and he eventually died. It was about 2 days after.
It's weird, though, because a couple thoughts on that. One is, did he ingest this stuff, and did it hurt? Did it not do what he thought it would do right away? And then did he think, wow, this could get really bad and nobody's going to come looking for me. And that's going to be depressing in itself. So I'll just go to work, and if something bad happens, then it happens there. I mean, I don't want to speculate too much. I'm just saying that. I mean, this is a case. It's just so fascinating.
Well, it's weird because, it's like, well, if he went to work, what's the point in that? Is that to make a scene? But then you would think he would want to tell people that he ingested something. But then it's like, well, if I tell them what I took, maybe they solve the problem and I don't die.
Right.
Maybe he was really set on dying. The other issue, though, is what was in that note. This is a note that is deemed by some to be a quote-unquote suicide note.
It could just be a journal.
But we don't know what that said. Mm-hmm. Did it say, I took this dried gas to kill myself? That's a lot different than if it's just some kind of random scribblings of something. And it's generally believed by his family that he did commit suicide. They obviously would have more insight to it than we would, but we don't, that's not.
But if they're wrong about that, then maybe they're wrong about the idea that we all believe he killed her. I don't know. It's a very fascinating part of the story.
Well, one thing that I've always firmly believed in, and I didn't give my theory on what I think happened.
Well, that that case, we covered it way different because it was just we invited Renner down from Cleveland to Columbus. And my favorite part about it is, one, he didn't know who the hell we were.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he would drive 2.5 hours on a whim, basically, and he didn't know if he's showing up to some dude's house or what. And we even told him, like, it's a professional studio. Like, we were super amateur at that point.
Right.
And so our thought was, like, let's not invite him to the garage. It's kind of smelly and it kind of has a little bit of a beer piss smell, you know.
I don't know about that, but it's also a comfort level. It's also a comfort level.
Right.
Okay, so like when I went up to, and I think the best way to describe this Amy Mihaljevic project, I think what I can say is that I'm helping them with the project, and it's been an ongoing thing that's been phone calls and things like that. But
you're recording all the audio.
No, but when I went up to Cleveland, to help them with this project,
mm-hmm.
I'm having lunch with Renner, and we're talking. I said,
real quick, what is he eating?
Oh, we both had a sandwich of some kind. It was lunchtime, so it was regular lunch stuff. I didn't pay attention to what he ordered. I didn't pay attention to what he ordered. So,
I figured him to be like a soup and salad guy.
It was not soup and salad.
Because you're a soup and salad guy.
But I had a sandwich.
Yeah, but you are a soup and salad guy.
I do like soup and salad.
I've gone to lunch with you many times, and you order the soup and salad. I'm like, who does this?
I had sandwich and chips, and I think he had some kind of sandwich and chips.
And no beer, but that's because you were recording later.
Well, and I had to drive 2.5 hours home at some point.
Good job, detective.
So I said to him, I said, he goes, hey, can you drive around? Do you want to go to Bay Village? Which we were like 4 minutes from Bay Village.
Yeah, I've been there a bunch because we used to play in Lakewood once a month for years.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd also play in West Park, which is right beside Lakewood.
Right.
So,
well,
been there a bunch.
To help them out with this project, I had to go to Lakewood. And he says, hey, let's go up to, do you have time to go up to Bay Village? And I thought, well, this is perfect because we'll talk about Amy's case a little bit more. And that's where I asked him about the Strunak suicide and about the note. And anyway, I said, but I only have about an hour to do that because I have to go to Lakewood to help them with this Amy project. And he goes, oh, yeah, where are you going in Lakewood? And I'm like, I'm not really certain. I have the address here. So I looked up the address. He goes, is that like a hotel or some kind of meeting center or
hotel, motel, Holiday Inn?
Business center or something like that? And I said, no, I think it's a house. And he goes, okay, that's weird. And I didn't put any thought into it.
Wait. So you're hanging out with Renner.
Mm-hmm.
You're driving at this point. You're driving while you're talking about them.
No, this was at lunch.
At lunch.
Because he's asking me if I want to go to Bay Village if I have enough time.
Right.
I said I only have an hour.
So you got to go to Lakewood and you got to meet, and you're going to meet at a house.
Yes.
And he says that's weird.
Yeah, okay. but until he asked me that question, I was unaware that it was a house. Mm-hmm. I had the address. I didn't Google it until he asked me that question.
Right. So it's a house.
Right. And he says that's weird. And I would have been fine had he not said that's weird. Because here I'm thinking, this is Renner. He goes up and knocks on suspects' doors
right.
in the middle of the night, and he's telling me, hey, that's weird. And I wanted to be like, hey,
are you going to come with me?
Yeah, are you going to this place with me? Or because he's helped them with this project too. So I just assumed when I told him it was a house that he would go, oh, yeah, over on blah, blah, blah. Right. And instead he goes, well, that's weird.
So you might not be able to talk about this, but does the house have anything to do with the case?
No, it didn't. And I actually asked them that when I got close, I called my contact just to make sure.
Your agent.
No,
I called my agent.
No, I called my contact with the project just to make sure I had the right address.
Told my agent that sandwich was really good. Thanks for the comp.
Well, I don't know whose house I'm showing up to.
Right.
And so, but I did ask them when I got there, I said, does this house have any significance to it? And they're like, no, it's just...
Have you seen Amy's house?
We rented the house. Yeah, so actually James and I went to Amy's house after lunch.
See, that's fascinating.
Which I had been to Amy's street before, but I didn't know which one was her house before when I had been there. And I had been to her street, I had been to her school, I'd been to the shopping plaza. And so while I was there, he goes, let's drive around Bay Village, let's talk about the Amy case. And I thought, I would love to. Did
you guys hold hands?
There was no hands being held.
Right. But he had a nice musk about him.
I don't know. I didn't smell the man.
I never smelled him once.
Well, we start off. We went to there's a memorial for Amy in a park there, in one of the city parks in Bay Village.
Right.
And so we first went there, and then we drove from her school to the shopping plaza, which would have been the same route that she took from school to the shopping plaza the day that she was abducted. And then we drove to her house, and he pointed out which house it was. Now, I think I impressed him a little bit with my knowledge because I knew about which house it was, but I wasn't positive. I said we turned onto her street, and I said, I know her home's one of the ones on the end here, but I don't know which one it is.
Well, he should be impressed by you anyways, because, he's covered how many cases extensively?
A bunch, yeah.
But not a ton, though, right?
I don't know.
Two major books, right?
I don't know about his newspaper days.
Right.
But when you say extensively, he's wrote extensively to my knowledge of about
Marmari case.
I would say 15 to 20 cases, depending on how you look at it.
Okay. More than I thought.
Depending on how you look at it, because when you talk about a serial offender, there's multiple cases involved within that.
But the fact that you remember anything about the Amy case has fascinated me because we've covered over 100 cases now.
Well, and that was what was funny was I said to him, I said, last time I was here was about 3 years ago. And he goes, oh, really? I didn't realize it was that long ago. And I said, yeah, that was right around the same time that I cornered you in the parking lot asking you questions about Amy's case. And he looks at me, he goes, my, how things have changed.
Yeah.
Now he's wanting to talk to me about the Amy case.
Yeah, now you're stuck in the car with him.
So then we took the route from her house to the school because, remember, she would have rode her bike to school that day.
It's sad, really. On some level. You know what I mean?
Well, it's extremely sad.
No, did you feel any of that when you were taking the...
I've felt that for 5 or 6 years about this case.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying, when you're driving that, did you feel anything? And the only thing, here's why I say that, is because, I've been, I visited, Motown and Hitsville, and I just feel like that some areas, whatever your connection is with it, that I think there's some kind of energy that comes out in the universe where some kid could ride his bike the same path as Amy 1,000 times, but he doesn't know the Amy story and there's no personal connection, so he won't feel that energy.
Right.
But somebody like you or Renner that has dove into this case over and over and over and over again, that if they take that path, that they'll pick up on some kind of energy that's, I know that's kind of hippity-dippity stuff.
No, not at all. And that's why I started off the story by saying, once I got past Route 1181, okay, so now you don't drive directly past where her body was found, but I know the exit to get off on to make my way, to jog over to that road.
Right.
So as soon as I drive past that exit, that was when I felt the anger and the sadness and everything all at once, where I said, I know that I feel strongly that some point between here and where I'm going to end up later today, there could still be a child killer living somewhere along this route.
Yeah.
And I felt it as soon as I got to past that exit, which is about 50 miles away from Bay Village where she lived. So I drive with that for the full 50 miles until I get to see, have lunch with him. And then we go and we drive that route. We also went to Holly Hill Farms, which was the riding stable where she used to ride horses. And that was actually the center of the investigation for the first few weeks that she was missing. They really believed that somebody that worked there had abducted her and taken her to this riding stable. Now, unbeknownst to both Renner and I, we got to where the stable would have been, where the farm would have been, and it's no longer there. They've sold off the land, and it's now they've bulldozed it over, and they're currently building houses there.
I've been looking for houses lately, and I keep finding houses that have stables.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen this?
No.
It's fascinating to me. I'm like, I over 10, at least over 10 houses that have some kind of
riding stable,
like where they just have stables for horses. It's fascinating to me. Okay, so anyways, it's not there anymore. Now, other question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a case that you've read about. Now, I can't remember, but you were into the case before you actually read the book by James.
Yeah, because I had a little knowledge of it when I was a kid when it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of fell out of it and then grew into all this true crime hobby about reading about true crime and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I got older that I became fascinated with unsolved Ohio cases.
Right.
And I started I just Googled the name one day to see if it had ever been solved, and it hadn't. I hadn't looked at it in years. And at that time, there was no book out. Renner had not wrote his book yet.
Right. But once you read the book, then everything that's in the book, as far as like talking about houses and schools and stuff like that, then so you read the book and like, I'm assuming there wasn't a bunch of pictures. Could be wrong.
There's some pictures. I mean, it's a typical true crime book, the old school format where you would see pictures in the center of the book.
To give you some kind of idea. But I'm just saying that it's probably a lot easier for you to imagine what some of these scenes look like because it's Ohio and we're only 2 hours from this. If it was a crime that took place in California, the schools would probably look different. The houses normally look a little different.
Well, yeah, before I had ever been there, I had a general idea of the distance between where she was last seen and where her body was found.
Right.
So it's easier to paint that picture. Now, years ago, it sounds creepy that I had been there and visited some of these places years ago, but I had to be in town for something else. I had time to
likely excuse creeper.
Well, I had time to kill, which is a terrible word to say in this nice situation,
pun.
But so I drove by some of those places when I had been up there before. But I kind of did double duty when I was up there because I went over by many years ago. Not only did I drive the Amy stuff involved in her case, but I also went over by Sam Shepard's old house and over by the hospital that he worked at.
Yeah, most people know that's loosely that story from The Fugitive.
Strange enough, though, two of Ohio's most famous unsolved crimes happened in Bay Village. You have the disappearance and murder of Amy Mihaljevic, and you also have the murder of Marilyn Shepard.
Well, there was a third crime that happened in Bay Village.
What's that?
That you probably don't even know about. I mean, you want to stand on a pedestal, hold your American flag with your gold medal of true crime, but I bet you don't know what the third crime is that happened in Bay Village. It's the third most popular case. Now, it's a solved case.
In Ohio.
One captain got a speeding ticket one time in Bay Village.
Bay Village.
I think it was Bay Village.
You don't even know if it was
I'm
Bay
pretty
Village.
sure. Well, I remember I had to go to, was it Portage? I had to go to some. Here's what I remember about it. I'm driving the coast.
Mm-hmm.
Big houses. You know what I'm talking about? It's right on the water.
Oh yeah.
Big houses, huge houses, old houses. These are mansions, right? I get to the station to pay my ticket. I pay the ticket. There's something really cheap, $50,
Mm-hmm.
but you couldn't mail it in. Something stupid, right?
Right.
So I pay this $50 ticket. On the way in to the police department, mansion. Oh my God, I'd love to live there.
I don't think it was Bay Village because the police station in Bay Village is not surrounded by mansions.
Okay, so it's close.
It's in the area.
But the ticket happened in Bay Village.
Okay.
But I paid wherever I paid. But then
maybe you had to pay to the county there. I did. I don't know how that works.
Portage County, something like that.
Okay.
So I go pay, then I leave the police station. And you know how like you start wondering, did I enter from the right or did I enter on the left?
Mm-hmm.
Right or left? So I ended up turning the wrong way, and I was instantly in the ghetto. It went from mansion to police department, separating the mansions from the ghetto. And it was, but I always loved Cleveland.
Well, that's kind of like how it is here in spots too. I mean, we have, like, you go to Bexley, there's some big ass beautiful houses there, and then you go like a block over and you're like, these people are robbing from those big ass beautiful houses that are a block away.
Yeah, when people ask me, I'd go, because I stayed in Bexley a bunch, and back in the day, because that's where my college was for a little bit. But they'd always ask me, well, where do you, oh, that's awesome, you stay in Bexley.
You must be loaded.
You know, they go, oh, that place is awesome, but, you know, a couple blocks away is not so nice. And I'm like, yeah, that's where I live. I live in that part.
You probably don't remember this. Oh, no, I would actually, you probably do. You probably do. But we had a conversation many moons ago, my friend, when we were in our early 20s, and we for a brief period of time, we shared an apartment. And I said, you know, the apartment we lived in was in my name because I had asked you to move in. I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble making rent. I have an extra room. Can you help me out?
You didn't charge me that much, but I guess that was enough to help you out.
Yeah.
So you charged me $300.
So we're living together, and the end of the lease was coming up, and I said to you, well, I'm considering looking for a different place. Because the rent at that apartment that we were staying in was so high, you could rent a house for about that price. And you go, oh, cool. Well, yeah, I would love to get a room with you at the house, depending on where it is, of course. You know,
no, because you got to drive, right?
And you go, well, where are you thinking about? And I said, well, I'm going to go look at this one place. I called the landlord already, and it's over on this street, which was right by Bexley, the place that we just referenced with the big ass houses. And you go, wait a second, that street? I'm not living on that street. And I go, why? And you said, because you know the crime rate over there, you know the amount of theft and home break-ins going on. And I said to you, I go, yeah, it's a high crime area. I go, but those people aren't breaking into any homes on that street. They're going 2 blocks over and breaking it.
No. Well, because my college was right in the middle, and they had a crime chart for some reason in the hallway. So it was just like it was like this weird reminder that you are here and crime doesn't happen here.
Yeah.
And this is the nice area. It was very strange.
Yeah. Male student rape victims is up 80% this season.
By Two-Fingered Tommy. So, okay. So you could then film some stuff with these people?
Yeah.
And you're
6 hours.
Oh my God.
It was 6 hours of filming.
We had
which was it sounds fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It was
It doesn't sound fantastic.
No, because I think
I've done filming before.
I think when people, not you, but I think when other people hear that, they're like, oh, you were probably like walking around and going to places of significance regarding the crime, and it's, you know,
right.
you talking to law enforcement. No, this was what it was. It was me. It was your old buddy, the Colonel, sitting in a chair in a dark room, surrounded by about 7 or 8 people that were not going. They were not involved in the filming as far as being filmed. They were doing the filming.
Right.
So they're
cameraman. That's kind of
dark room, spotlight on me, and then they're like, "Okay, now talk." Why all of us stare at you,
right?
While you sit in this dark room. There's
a couple things that you're not really that comfortable with, because I mean
that would be one of them.
Because I know you pretty well, so I remember when we're shooting the, you know, quote unquote little teaser reel to kind of shop around the Brian Schaefer docu-series or whatever it was, that every time they would like film you, like I could just see how nervous you looked. And I don't know, did you feel that when I was being filmed?
No, I didn't feel that when you were being filmed, but you and I kind of operate in two different ways. Like I like to have notes and I like to have things to refer to.
I should have notes.
And you don't necessarily need that. I
don't need that for our show. No,
but when they're filming you talking, you're just talking because you just talk. The problem with filming me is like, okay, well, you can film me, but I need a stack of papers sitting next to me.
Right.
And if you take away that stack of papers,
well, it's probably that you just use it as a crutch on some level. It's kind of like if you learn a piece of music that sometimes, like, if you take away that sheet, it's like it goes all away. But if you take a couple seconds to kind of regroup, you're going to be able to play it from memory.
Well, I know most of the cases by memory, let's say 50%. The problem is that you need to have specific names of people, specific places, dates and times and things. And
just pull a Renner. If you don't know it, just make it up.
Just
as a joke.
If he hears this.
He was not going to. He doesn't listen to us. No way. He likes you.
I think he likes you.
He didn't ask me about podcast information.
Well,
but I you know.
But again,
I think he's a really nice guy, and I think he's a super talented writer.
I was going up there anyway, and I think the way that the conversation went like this, it sounded to me. I hate to put words in someone's mouth, but it sounded to me like he was like, "Hey, can we get together and talk about podcasts? Where do you want to do it?"
Right.
Okay, now if I would have said, "Hey, we have to do it in Columbus," he would have come down and he would have met with the both of us. But I was nice to him because I know he's drove down here a few times. I'm like, look, you happen to start this conversation up, and guess what? Within the next week or two, I'm going to be in your neck of the woods anyway, so let's just make it happen. Well, the highlight of my day was driving around with James Renner and talking about the case.
It wasn't Moose Knuckles.
No, what do
you can't even remember. You can't remember the sandwich.
I told you the place was called something like Moosehead Saloon.
Yeah,
that's probably pretty accurate. That's probably pretty.
Google. So, but okay. So no. So overall, it was a good experience, and you can't even say that when it comes out.
Oh, I don't. They're not done filming yet, so I don't think they know when it's coming out.
But I mean. Because, like we've said multiple times on the show, it's like, think about that. It's like, even what Renner said, like, you're driving around with Renner. You used to follow the guy out to the parking lot. Now you're hanging out with him in a car. He's asking you for podcast advice. You are also a case that it's your red light case, one of your red light cases.
Yeah.
And
it's one of my top 5.
And these people thought of you enough as a true crime expert
on that case. Yeah.
Right. But to be involved in such a thing, I mean, that's That's pretty crazy.
I think that puts me on a level that I'm not really on. Here's kind of the psychology behind it. I think me and Amy are almost the same age. Like we're within months of each other.
Right,
yeah,
right.
She's a little bit older than me. I think that the appeal for them filming here is one, okay, so what's this rare scenario? Think about this rare scenario. We have a guy that does true crime for a living. He is born and raised in Ohio, still lives in Ohio. He knows the case very well, and he's the same age as the victim.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just a lot of things lining up. It gives credibility to why they would want to talk to me. You know, because I can somewhat relate to the case in the sense, even if I didn't know about the case, I can relate to it in the sense that I was in the same grade as her, at the same age as her when this happened, when it went down.
Right, but you also have an audience now.
Mm-hmm.
And just because you have an audience doesn't make you an expert, but I'd argue.
All of the 3 or 4 people. Hello!
Hey, everybody.
Tom.
Hey.
Justin, Jerry.
There's a lot of Tommy Two Fingers
William.
today. No, but I think Justin's over in the corner, and Justin's driving his little green Ford pickup truck.